Every time you eat yogurt, a slice of cheese, or a piece of sourdough bread, you are eating the product of biotechnology. Not a lab, not gene editing. Something far older and far simpler that humans have been using for thousands of years, without even knowing what was actually happening at the molecular level. Today we are going to look at fermentation, the original biotechnology, and why it still runs the entire food industry. Let's start with the basic idea. Fermentation happens when microorganisms, mainly bacteria and yeast, break down sugars in food and release new compounds as a byproduct. Those byproducts change the taste, the texture, and the shelf life of the food. Humans figured this out completely by accident, thousands of years before anyone understood what a bacterium even was. Take yogurt. Milk on its own spoils within a day or two. But add a specific culture of bacteria, mainly Lactobacillus and Streptococcus thermophilus, and something different happens. These bacteria feed on the natural sugar in milk called lactose. As they consume it, they release lactic acid. The acid does two things at once. It thickens the milk into that familiar creamy texture, and it lowers the pH enough that harmful bacteria simply cannot survive there anymore. You are not just eating flavored milk. You are eating a living culture that turns spoilage into preservation. Cheese takes this even further. Start with the same basic idea, bacteria converting lactose into acid, but add an enzyme called rennet, which causes the proteins in milk to clump together into curds. Different bacterial cultures, different aging environments, and different moisture levels are what separate a soft brie from a sharp cheddar from a wheel of Parmesan aged for 2 years. Every distinct flavor profile in the cheese aisle is essentially a different recipe of microorganisms doing controlled, monitored spoilage. Bread works on a similar principle, but with a different organism entirely. Yeast, a single-celled fungus, feeds on the sugars in flour and releases carbon dioxide gas as a byproduct. That gas gets trapped inside the dough's gluten network, and that is what makes bread rise. Sourdough takes it one step further by using a wild culture of yeast and bacteria living together, which is why sourdough has that distinct tangy flavor that commercial yeast alone cannot replicate. Here's the part that surprises most people. All of this counts as biotechnology by definition. Biotechnology simply means using living organisms or their processes to create or modify a product. Ancient humans fermenting milk into yogurt were doing biotechnology thousands of years before anyone coined the term. They just had no idea why it worked. And this is not some outdated definition we are stretching to make a point. The same core process now powers a massive part of modern industrial biotechnology. Insulin production, biofuel production, even some vaccine manufacturing rely on the exact same principle as your yogurt cup. Take a living organism, usually a bacterium or yeast, give it the right raw material, and let its natural metabolic process produce something valuable. The scale is different. The organisms are often genetically modified for precision. But the underlying concept, feeding a microbe so it produces a useful compound, has not changed since the first jar of fermented milk. So the next time you eat a spoonful of yogurt, remember that you are tasting the output of a controlled biological process, refined over thousands of years, and that the same basic principle now helps produce life-saving medicine on an industrial scale. Biotechnology is not some futuristic concept locked away in a lab. It has been sitting in your refrigerator this entire time. If topics like this genuinely interest you, this channel exists to explore exactly how biology actually works behind the scenes. Subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.